my name is Andrew. I am a nurse and I live just between Kinallen and Dramara. There will be 3 places you will see me in Dramara. The first place will be the Village Grill. The second place will be standing waiting for a pizza at a Femmy's. And the third place will be the towpath, running around the village trying to burn both those things off. So the question I've been asked to address, and I've heard it many times before, is what would being a Christian add to my life? I have everything I already need. And actually, that question in itself kind of exposes the way we think in modern society. We're a consumer society. We are materialistic very often, and we seek our self-interest first off. What can I get? How fast can I get it? The thing I want to start with is that God is not actually a businessman making an offer in that way. And Christianity is not a business model where we can bargain with him to get something. God is matchless in his power, his wisdom, his goodness, his love, and his kindness. He is not bound by time, space, or matter that we see. The fancy things of this world, whether they are worth millions or billions or more, are of no value to him. He is far above us in his ways and his thoughts. Yet, he has made himself accessible to us in Jesus, the very essence and being of God coming down to earth. The other thing that I want to start with is to define the term need. Need is something that's essential, something that you cannot do without. And over the past year, many people have fallen sick, as you will know. And one of the most worrying issues that you might not have heard of is a medical problem called silent hypoxia. Now, don't get lost with this. I'm going to explain what that is. It's very simple. Silent hypoxia, or happy hypoxia, is basically when your lungs are so unwell that your oxygen levels drop dangerously. But over the last year, people have got sick and they didn't know it. And so, when people belonging to me and my family got sick, I got them a little finger probe and sent that to them via Amazon. And they were able to look at their oxygen levels. And sure enough, 1 or 2 of them, the oxygen levels started to drop and they felt fine. But this little monitor said otherwise. As a nurse, whenever I see oxygen levels at 82%, I worry. I want to get that person to oxygen very, very quickly. But over the last year, people have had low oxygen levels, but they didn't feel sick. They didn't think they needed to go to hospital. They didn't feel unwell, and so they felt quite safe. Someone with happy hypoxia would even laugh at you for suggesting they need to go to hospital. There's a couple of problems there. The first problem is that most people don't have the medical knowledge to understand the danger that they're in. And the second problem is that with lower oxygen levels, you actually enter into a state of euphoria, almost like being drunk, and you don't have any sense of danger. So I find it amazing to hear some people say that they don't need Jesus or they don't need Christianity. I would humbly say 2 things to you. First of all, you don't have all the information before you. You don't have all the knowledge of who God truly is before you, a true understanding of the Bible. And secondly, I would say this, is that sin in the world, sin in our lives, has actually led us to a distorted view of who God is. And so we don't feel the need to be right with him, and we don't feel that sense of urgency and danger. So quite similar to happy hypoxia is you can be happy in your life and not think you need God, not think you need to be a Christian or be right with God. But this word need, it's what we would call a subjective word. It's a matter of opinion. What you need as a baby is different than what you need as an infant. And then that's different as what you need as a child and an adult and an elderly person. In fact, you could be driving to a petrol station to fill up your car because you need petrol. And yet in a moment, a lorry could crash into the side of your car, and very quickly, in a second, your needs have changed. And so to say that you have everything you need is a wild statement, because we all have needs that change daily, hourly, yearly, right throughout our lives. If you were going to do a weekly shop in Tesco and you were heading over to the biggest Tesco in Northern Ireland, wherever that might be, and I said to you before you go, would you like to take a bottle of water with you? You'd probably look at me and think, well, that's an inconvenience. I don't need a bottle of water with me to go to Tesco. I'm going to a supermarket. And you might actually consider it to be a weight that you shouldn't have to carry about. But if you were stuck in the desert for 48 hours and you seen me approaching you with that bottle of water, you would probably tackle me to the ground, drink it as quick as you could, and then immediately start searching for more. You see, our sense of need is so subjective. It can change in an instant. The Bible's message is clear. What you really need is to be reconnected with God. That's the message of Jesus. The message of Christianity is that he is this exclusive way that God has provided to be brought back into relationship with him. Christianity isn't a business deal where you gain something. There are things to gain from being a Christian, but God isn't trying to sell you anything. In fact, many Christians around the world suffer huge loss. Christians in North Korea are currently in a prison camp suffering for their faith. Christians are beaten across many countries in the world, and so they don't have much to gain in terms of what we think as gain. But Christianity not only adds to our lives in certain ways, but it removes things from our lives that trouble us. Being a Christian, being right with God, being connected to God through Jesus removes guilt. It removes shame. It can remove sinful addiction. It can remove fear that we are gripped by perhaps for a long time in our lives. You see, we can ignore Jesus. We can ignore that source of true joy, true peace, true satisfaction, and that peace that comes with being rescued and reconnected with God. And we can end up wasting our lives chasing everything else other than God. You can chase new clothing, you can chase a new car, you can chase a new house, and yet over time all of those things rot, they decay, they lose value, and they need to be changed. Ultimately, what we do if we say we do not need God is we claim independence from him, and that is at our peril. Our modern society has tried hard to extinguish God, to dispel the authority of the Bible, and to explain away its teachings. But when we try to replace God and say we don't need him, we have everything we need, we actually end up shortchanged in this life. One of the most prolific writers in the Bible is a man called David, and I want to share a verse that he penned in the Bible. And why I'm using David is because David knew what it was to be in every walk of life. He started off as a shepherd, very little money, very little resources, and he ended up as a king. And right through his life, he had high points with God, but he also fell into the deepest of sins. And so David, he was rich, he was poor, he was sinful, he was righteous, so many different experiences. And yet here's what David says in Psalm 16, verse 11. He confesses back to God, "You will show me the path of life. In your presence is fullness of joy. At your right hand are pleasures forevermore." David was a king. He had unbridled wealth, unbridled resources and privileges in this world, yet he realized that it was God alone that guided him through the path of life. It was God alone, and in God's presence and being reconnected and united with God, that he could have fullness of joy and that he could have look forward to pleasures forevermore. David looked beyond this life, and that's what I want to encourage you to do. If you ask that question sincerely and genuinely, you want to know what being a Christian would add to your life, it's actually more about the next life. It's more about where you go after this life is over. Let me end with a list of 10 things that really add to your life as a Christian. What Christianity does offer and give, and what Jesus gives when you come to him. Christianity offers us truth in a world full of lies. Christianity offers us hope in a world full of despair. Christianity offers us love in a world full of hatred. Christianity gives us life in a world full of death. Christianity offers forgiveness in a world full of vengeance. And Christianity offers purpose in a world full of purposelessness. Christianity offers beauty in a world full of ugliness. And finally, Christianity offers peace in a world full of turmoil. Perhaps as you honestly reflect on your life, you know that you don't have everything you need. You constantly have to change things. You're constantly looking for the next model, constantly researching the next thing to buy. Very quickly, that idea that you have everything you need untangles and falls apart. And when you come to the end of life and all of those things fade away, you need God. That is your primary need. And getting God, getting all of his goodness, his kindness, his grace, that comes through his Son who came to rescue you and to save you. Thank you for listening.